So if you run Meta ads in 2024, I'm sure you already know the importance of creative in your ad account. Now, everyone is talking about testing creative in different ways: ABO, CBO, cost caps, ASCs, and the likes. But here are 7 things you need to learn or know before you start testing creative in your ad account. Before we get into it, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you find it very insightful. Now let's get into it. Alright guys, so I'm going to be sharing my screen and walking you through all this information, because when it comes to testing creatives, there are a couple of things we have at the back of your mind, but these 7 things are the most important for me. So the first thing when it comes to testing creatives is defining your hypothesis. Now, what exactly do you want to get from your test? One mistake we make as marketers is just running tests for the sake of testing alone. And then we just want to find winners or losers. But there are bigger picture to look at when it comes to testing creatives, which is the learning. What exactly are we learning from this test? And how will this impact our decision in the next step? So you basically want to look at your data to figure out what exactly you learned from your test, which angles has worked very well, what hook is working for your brand, and what is the best hold rate, what creative is having the best hook rate, what creative is holding attention very well, what creative has the best personnel and all of those things there. So these are critical things you want to look out for, so that on the long run you basically know what you want to achieve at the end. So you are on the same path, and then you're not just throwing money and then wasting your funds there. Now, the second thing you want to do when it comes to testing creative is setting your target and KPIs. Now, if you don't have a goal, if you don't have a target or KPIs that you want to achieve, then you would not know if your test is successful or not. So when you set your target, it gives you an overview when you make decisions, as it becomes your goalpost to whether your test was successful or not. So when setting your goals, you basically look out for, maybe say you want to improve your click through rate by 1%. Maybe you want to decrease your CPA below $25 or improve your conversion rate by 3%. So by this, as you run your test and you see the results, if these KPIs are not met, you can easily tell that, oh, there's something you need to do to, get back to the drawing board and then work back on the test to see if you're actually able to meet your KPIs. And the third thing you want to do when it comes to testing your creative is actually just deciding what your testing budget is. Now, most people don't know this, because when it comes to testing, there is practically a percentage of your budget that should be dedicated to testing. Now, what I do when I test is I try as much as possible to dedicate about 15 to 20% of my daily budget towards testing. Now, of course, as you grow, as you run ads, depending on your budget, this will vary. But say you have a monthly budget of about 50K, and then you're deciding to allocate 20% toward testing. It means that your monthly testing budget would be about 10K. And this would basically help you to analyze how much creatives you need to be testing. So we'll look at a couple of things also as we go in the mix. And the fourth thing you want to be doing when you're before you test a creative test, the fourth thing you want to be doing before you launch a creative test is to calculate how many ads you can test based on your testing budget. So sometimes people don't do this information, they just run all their ads and then it becomes a stumbling block and they don't get performance that they want on the long run. So let's say you allocate about 20% of your budget toward testing. You can calculate how much you need to spend per ad based on your target CPA to manage this effectively. So, for example, now if you need to spend about 250 for per ad before calling it a loser or a winner, and then you have just 50K per month on a monthly, per 50K per month. For example, if you need to spend say 250 per ad before calling it a loser or a winner, and you have 50K on a monthly budget, it means you have just 10K allocated to your testing, which will only allow for 40 yards. So this would help you as you go on the long run. So you're not just making ads; it keeps you also in the financial purple. Like, this will help you as you go. So you're not just making ads that are not going to be tested. So have this in mind as you begin before you begin your test. Now, the fifth thing you want to do before you launch a new test is to ensure that you have the system, the tools in place to track and analyze your data for better optimization. Now, there are tools out there you can always use. I know a lot of people use Motion, but you can also use Supermetrics to build custom dashboard so you can track your CPA, your AOV, your thumbs up ratio, and all your KPIs actually. So this is very critical, because if you don't know what you're tracking, then you cannot tell what is working and what is not working. And then the sixth thing you want to do before you launch a new test is to decide your testing strategy. Now, I'm a big fan of ABO. I use ABO in all of my tests. I know that a lot of people are going to be using CBO or ASCE as we were seeing recently, but whichever works for your account is very okay. But ensure that you have something that's working and you stick to it. For me, also, when I test, I have a maximum of 5 creative per ad set. So I'm basically testing one ad angle per ad set. So I can have 5 ad sets. Each of these ad sets have their own angles. And then I'm always using my best audience, which is mostly broad. So have a testing strategy before you launch a new test. And the last thing you want to do before you launch a new test is to ensure that you have a process for killing what is not working and scaling what is working. So there's no big deal here. If you're testing, if you find winners, you want to scale them. So you must have something that you have at the back of your mind as a strategy to scale when you find winners in your account. So for me, when I launch new tests like this, I let my test run for about 7 days, comparing performance, and then I look at the spend, the CPA, the CTR, whichever of these add it my target KPIs, I move them with into a scaling campaign using post IDs. And then I queue all the ads that are not meeting KPIs. If I spend about 3x my CPA or 2x my AOV, whichever works for you actually, because it's going to depend on your budget and of course your product. So these are things to have in mind as you launch a new test. So that's it, guys. Let me know if you find this video helpful and leave your question in the comment section. If you're not subscribed yet, ensure you hit the subscribe button below so that you can always get updated when we launch new videos. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace out.